Welcome to the You're Still Here podcast, a live taping. I gave this a test run the other day, but I wanted to actually, shoot some episodes here onto YouTube. I don't know if what you see here is going to be the exact version of what's going to be on the podcast, because the podcast, the parameters aren't as confined here on YouTube. And if you're some random person who's been suggested this feed and you're thinking, who the hell is this guy and why is he live? Just remember this, at some point, everybody was kind of just a guy. Anybody you're thinking of, before you saw them, they were just some guy doing that thing that you now know them for. I did choose a particularly odd time to go live, kind of right at the stroke of midnight, actually a few minutes past. That would be me, by the way. That would be me. Well, who is it? Cinderella had to be home by midnight? I'd be home at 12:03, screwed. But anyway, I decided to start at midnight for a few reasons. Number one, that's like when a movie would be released. That's when movies would typically be released, the Thursday at midnight, when movie theaters were still a thing. I remember, I don't know why, when I always think about going to see a movie during its opening at midnight on a Thursday. The first movie I think of was Freddy vs. Jason, the rather absurd horror movie where Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, that is, you may know him as Frederick, took on Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, and me or my friends and I, we showed up to the movie theaters at midnight like there was going to be a huge line, like it was going to be sold out like Star Wars. We showed up to watch Freddy vs. Jason the midnight beforehand. And I remember when we got in there, my knucklehead friends, one of my friends, he turned back to me and goes, "Oh, don't worry, guys. My brother called me. Jason wins. It's all right." And like the people in front of us was like, "Oh, come on." It was the premiere of the movie. It's not like we were actually able to spoil it. And you know what I love for those movies, by the way, like Freddy vs. Jason? I love how Rotten Tomatoes gives it like 14% or something like that. As if people who are going to see Freddy vs. Jason, just listen to that title, Freddy vs. Jason, are going to see the Titanic. They need to kind of gauge what you're going there for before they give it a Rotten Tomatoes score. Like somebody, like Siskel and Ebert can't be presented some absurd movie like Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Of course, it's going to be 3%. But there needs to be a separate category of movie where you just want your idiotic mind to just be like, and allow it to just doze off as you're just watching nonsense. I mean, most of the stuff you see now is nonsense, mind garbage anyway, loud sounds and bangs. But regardless, you got to be taking these things into consideration, because if you like horror movies, especially if you like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies or the Friday the 13th movies, even though the movie was kind of corny, it was definitely enjoyable from a horror movie watcher's perspective. And how do I sell that I've watched a lot of horror movies? I just put a red curtain behind me and some popcorn here. So clearly that qualifies me as a movie watcher. But anyway, going back to why I started at midnight. This is how I know my ADD is getting better, by the way. A couple weeks ago, I made a conscious effort to focus on things because my mind starts to veer off at all separate times. Like sometimes I think I want to do this for like 20 minutes. I could probably rip it in an hour, because that's how far my mind and how quickly my mind can veer off into separate topics. But a couple weeks back, I said on the podcast that I was going to make a concerted effort to work on the ADD and trying to stay on topic and work my way back, and just my memory in general. Because this all stemmed from an episode of the podcast where I had a guest on and I couldn't find a file. I deleted a file and I was all out of whack. And I mentioned on this podcast that I need to get a Simon or something. And that's when one of the listeners of the podcast actually sent me a Simon, which I have right over here. And of course, by the way, it's like the mini Simon. Not that I'm complaining, because, we're not getting much over here. In case you didn't know, the You're Still Here podcast is proudly sponsored by absolutely nobody. So if you're somebody who is watching this and you'd like somebody to pass on your scam product, it's probably not going to be me, because I'd rather just rant with no sponsors than try to pawn off some fit coffee or one of these scam products that you see random people push. And I say random people because you never see legitimately established people pushing fit coffee. What kind of person do you have to be to fall for that, by the way? Like, oh, that guy on TikTok who goes up to drive-thrus and he orders in a funny way. He told me that he got in shape using the fit tea, so, let me get some fit tea and I'll also get some fit coffee. That will get me fit. Who really buys this, by the way? But by the way, I know I'm going on a mini tangent over here. I'm keeping where this is all about the midnight conversation. So anyway, somebody bought me that 𝐄𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐸, and I was going to start using it. I actually started doing it, the boop, 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 like the mini DJ turntable. But because it's the mini 𝐄𝐲 and not the actual 𝐄𝐲, it's a little bit cheaply made, so it doesn't register soft touches. And if you know how 𝐄𝐲 works, it starts getting more complex and quicker, and you can't miss one. Like, goes. So if it doesn't register your click, it's one thing to lose on poor memory in 𝐄𝐲, but it's a whole nother thing to lose on a click that didn't register. That's a whole nother level of frustrating. That one will stick with me if I lose on a 𝐄𝐲 that actually wasn't a loss. And that brings me full circle to why the second time, or the second reason that I started at midnight tonight. I guess there's a third reason. There's three reasons. First was the movie premiere. Number two was because for example, I don't know if this sounds working. I do not have live experience. I can do all sorts of things, Photoshop, After Effects, you name it, but I haven't delved into this live streaming world. And obviously we got a one-man crew here. You know who's operating the camera? You, the viewer. But anyway, ideally, I would like to have a switcher and be able to cut the graphics. Like, as I was just talking about Freddy vs. Jason, I'd love to have that graphic up for you. But instead, you got to look at my schnoz. Anyway, that was reason number two was, yes, I didn't want there to be, I didn't want to say, hey, I'm going live on YouTube, and then people log on and it's a catastrophe. Like, I don't know if this is clear. I don't know if I'm going to take one peek down, not giving me any errors. So hopefully this is running properly. So now to the third reason. How far are we into this? It only took me, 10 minutes to get to the reason of why I started at midnight. I was actually watching Monday Night Football, Week 2, Packers versus the Lions, and I had the dreaded fantasy football matchup that was a nail biter going into that Monday night game. Look, if you're familiar with fantasy football, you know the deal. You ideally want your matchup closed, but of course it came down to the Monday game. And if I was doing this, I would just keep peeking over at the TV over there. And obviously the reason I'm doing this with a half-crooked smile is because I happened to pull it out. I pulled out the win. I can't guarantee that if I lost, that I actually would be trying to record the podcast, because then I'm coming in with that somber mood, but I got this half-crooked smile because TJ Hawkinson did what he needed to do for me. And how immature is that? A fully grown man put off doing the live feed because he had to watch players on a field hopefully accumulate a slightly higher score than his friend. And that merited putting off the podcast. And if I didn't get those fake points in a fake game, then I maybe wouldn't have done this. That's a pretty bad, a pretty bad and sad state of affairs. And it actually leads me kind of to the first thing that I want to talk about, and that is my haunted mind, and more in general, the haunted mind. Because I don't think this is something that just really applies to me. The haunted mind is the mind that holds on to the worst things that have ever happened to you. Like, it can't let them go, no matter how big, how small. And the great things, you don't remember any of them. Like bad things, oh, they're all right there. They're all right there. You can pull every memory vividly. But those good things, right out the back door. I can't speak for any of you, but what I do when something good happens to me, I just dismiss it, and my mind goes, yeah, well, that's what should have happened. Oh, and that girl gave me her number, and she was flirting with me, and she kind of liked me. Yeah, of course, because that's what I wanted to do, and that's what it's supposed to be. So you can just throw that one away, rather than me being like, oh, yes, and clinging on to that happiness as I should. Unfortunately, this is something I've mentioned before, and if you're a youngster out there, I remember I couldn't really put words to this when I was younger. It just kind of was sitting there, and you can't really put words to it. But in simple terms, the highest of highs does not match in feeling what the lowest of lows feels like. I guess if I can put it in a different manner, in other words, the thrill of winning $1,000 does not match the low of losing $1,000. Or if you have a lot of money, just add zeros. You know what I'm talking about? Like if happiness was on a 100-point scale and sadness was on a negative 100-point scale, so you can potentially be 0 to 100 on your little happiness meter. You win $1,000. What does it put you at? A 46, a 58 maybe. You lose that $1,000. Oh, you're minus 89. Not the full 100. You're minus 89. It's never a fair trade-off. And unfortunately, if I would have lost that game tonight, you get the haunted mind. You think about that random check down that screwed you. You start thinking about the random plays, the random switches you would have made. But now that I won, week 2 I will never think about ever again in my whole life, because week 2 was the win. Yeah, that is called the haunted mind, and it's something that I suffer from greatly. And going back to me talking about how this is like a live broadcast, I really would love just random like I think, I don't know, I may be able to pull up like quick graphics. I just looked into maybe how I'm going to try this. I hope it doesn't end the whole feed. But part of the reason that I'm doing these live streams, first of all, is so that the people who kind of come across my stuff on YouTube, I want to be able for them to have some version of the podcast, because trust me, I could stumble onto gold onto here every once in a while, and I want them to at least have that, because with everything that I try to do between, the parodies and then the podcast and everything, it's just to edit it properly, it just takes too much time. But something like this, where I just hop on and go and see what happens, I don't mind doing that for you once a week. And it doesn't take too much time because it automatically uploads. Like, this is no sweat off my back, okay? I you know how I said this is the haunted mind? A haunted house and a haunted mind have a lot of memories in there. Okay? Like, you ever see one of those horror movies where it's like, oh, we're going to the old insane asylum. You could hear the ghosts of 1,000 people in there. Yeah, that's what's in my mind. I'm going on the record. I've been on the record saying, if you crept into my mind and you just went through that front, like being John Malkovich through that front door, and you started going around, it would look like the opening credits from Tales to the Crypt. And I know some of you youngsters out there would have no clue what that is, but the beautiful thing about this being on YouTube is you can just right-click, new window, and type in Tales from the Crypt, and you can just keep listening to me in the background and just know that intro to the show. When you're seeing that haunted house door open and the swirling that's my mind. That's what's going on in there on a day-to-day basis. So yes. But I'm not the only one who I think takes fantasy football extremely serious. A lot of guys, there's careers built on fantasy football. Millionaires are made every weekend on DraftKings FanDuel. These people take it so seriously that, in fact, Raheem Mostert, who's a running back for the San Francisco 49ers, his wife had to take to social media to ask the country, the world, to stop issuing death threats to her husband, who has the most inspiring story ever. Extremely inspiring story. And she had to ask people to stop issuing death threats because somebody popped him in the knee and he got injured. But is Raheem Mostert's health important to the gargoyle nation that we live in? Of course not. Of course not. So he got the death threats. I like how they had to take it all the way to death threats. You couldn't just wish something else? Like, oh, you know what? I hope that your dog comes out with some weird diarrhea and you can't figure it out what it is, and it's even worse than if you knew what it is, because then you got to take him to this vet and then that. Why can't you wish unpleasant weeks on it? You got to go right to the death? That was like this friend I had who, like, if you got in a random argument with him and you tried to go like tit for tat, he always just took it way too far. It's like, oh yeah, man, hey, it's so funny. I don't even know how to kind of just make like these kind of jokes that aren't too bad. But it would be like, oh yeah, when was the last time you got a girl's number? And then his response would be like, yeah, well, at least I'm not an effing virgin, you effing whatever. And I'm using the effins because I don't know these YouTube rules. If you know me, you heard me, you know I could let it fly. But, rumor has it this is YouTube, okay? Whoever's been to sign the case of Andy, he's looking with that monocle like the Monopoly man. He knows I'm about to say something. He sees me winding up. He hears a little New York twang. He hears I'm talking quick. He's just waiting for me. He's like, there's no way. This guy sounds like he should be on one of these MTV reality shows, and I know that beep button. Nobody's got it there. You know what's crazy enough? Listen to this. I think I got a beep button. You ready? I hope this works. Hey, YouTube, I think it's the one thing I got. Why don't you eat? I have no clue if that worked. I'll try it one more time. You know what? You're a piece of... The stream's still live, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if that worked. It's the one button that I got over here. I think it's supposed to make a beep. But I don't know. I have to do some more research. One of my big struggles is I just want to make stuff. Okay? And I'm willing to dedicate a lot of time to making entertaining stuff and working on, my ability to even perform in environments like this, because it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird when you just have to keep going. Little things that I work on, like eliminating ums and you-knows. These are little things that it takes a little tweaking here and there to do that. And that I'm always willing to work on. But you know what I'm not willing to work on? How to make sure the stream is up to the standard. It's so uninteresting to me. And I lag on that front and another front that this is killing me. And, I bet you there's one person even watching this right now. But that leads me to my second point is... You need somebody to put in, like, if you're somebody like me, or you're anyone out there who's trying to get your stuff out there, spread it, get it to as many people as possible. Your ability to be seen and put yourself out there needs just the same exact amount of work as whatever it is that you're doing. I'll use something simple. Let's say you're an amazing dancer on TikTok. Well, nobody's going to know that you're that amazing dancer if you're just going to, like, quote unquote, rely on the algorithm. It's not. Like, I am still perplexed to this day. Like, I'm a relatively, I hate to say, I'm a somewhat astute individual. Okay, if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't be able to self-teach myself After Effects and Photoshop and all that stuff. However, the one thing I am unable to figure out, this is an impossibility for me, and it's something that I just speak about on the podcast. How in God's name do people spread their stuff past that point of inflection where things really start to steamroll? Because I'll tell you right now, like, I'm very self-aware. I understand what's funny and you can compare your stuff to similar stuff that's out there, and the only difference really is the opportunity for it to be seen. And, when you see accounts on Instagram like 67,000 with just regurgitated memes, that how in God's name did they build themselves up to that level? Because no matter how much you do, you go watch these YouTube, you can do any extensive amount of research, you can look into digital marketing, but there's just nobody gives a straight answer, which makes me want to know what scam tactics are people utilizing to grow their YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the keywords aren't working. How is somebody supposed to stumble upon one of my podcasts? Or how is somebody supposed to be able to stumble on my Instagram page? These things, they never get suggested. And if you toss some money into marketing them a little bit, it never yields even close to the results that you're hoping for. I do have a few followers that said they saw some of my stuff that way, but if you even think about in your own life, like think about some of the people who you've been turned on to. Did you really see one of their ads and say like, oh, the Pat McAfee show looks cool? Cool ad. Like, do you ever remember seeing an ad when the show was small? Like, hi, this is Pat McAfee, former punter for the Indianapolis Colts. I actually got a sports show that I'm starting up. It's a podcast. It's going to be great. How in God's name do you grow stuff without a posterior? That's the trump card. Maybe that's a bad word on this website, but maybe that's the card that, like, that's the card. I've always said, I think I can say, you got to let me say ass. Because if I can't even say ass on here, and how funny is that? I'm really talking like somebody's listening. I'm talking like the lights are all going to go out in my own studio if I say the word ass on YouTube. But I've always said, if you got a nice ass and you create an account on Instagram, you start with 15,000 followers. Like, oh, hi, Tanya, welcome to Instagram. And they just look, they got 15K right next to their name. That is the starting price, the starting follower package when you come with a nice ass. But when you don't have a nice ass, you got to be doing some heavy lifting out there, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, so yes, the Raheem Mostert and his wife had to ask people. You know how many people actually you think were typing something to Raheem Mostert's wife? Or I don't know where she was seeing it. I guess, by the way, I know this is easier said than done, but what is that human quality that we have where, let's say your boyfriend, let's say Raheem Mostert's your boyfriend, or, you know, somebody else is your girlfriend, somebody in the public spotlight. Just explain to me one benefit, just one, of going to a post about, like, did you search hashtag Raheem Mostert and then it filters the most popular post and then you hit view comments and you just started scrolling through all of them, or maybe onto, why would you do that to yourself? Because if you could name me one net positive from that, I'm all ears, as you actually don't have a chance to say anything back. But really, I always I'll tell a mini story. That's one thing you always get here, but as you can feel the disgust, I have to clean this up because it's. So there was one time. God, I can't even say it. You know what? This is going to be the scummiest thing I've ever done. I'm not going to say it, but I will say it on my Patreon. Oh my God, that feels so dirty. Well, I have a Patreon, and it's where people can go to kind of support my work. Wow, the thing's hovering right over end stream. I'm not even going to click it. But anyway, so I have a Patreon that I always, at the end of the podcast at some point, just tell people, hey, if you're enjoying my work, please just, you know, maybe toss me $5 on there. I'll put some extra stuff for you. That's where you get uncensored content. I'll tell the story on there. I don't mind saying it. You've heard me say a lot of stories, but there's just something about filming on YouTube. If I don't want these people to hear it, because even if I use aliases, they're gonna know. So I'll give you this story about how really the topic is. We're on YouTube. You know how you can subscribe to this channel? It's called subscribing to the channel called Your Own Misery. That's what doing stuff like that. That's what digging for stuff. When, like, somebody broke up with you and then you go haunting all their profiles using a backdoor extractor, you probably like, what are you talking about? I'm going all over the road. But the moral of the story is, don't dig yourself a deeper grave by seeking out things that you know are going to harm you. Because that's what that kind of stuff does. And by the way, I just have to say it. I've mentioned this before on my episode where I did the definitions I had with that friend. The backdoor extractor is the person who you use when you've been broken up with, or you've broken up with someone, to keep tabs on somebody. So what you do is you send this person into the back door, so one of your friends who's also probably friends with your ex, at least kind of close with them, they follow them on social media so that they can extract the information, what they're doing, what they're uploading, through the back door and over to you. And gentlemen, you know that's happened to you. You broke up with someone. Now all of a sudden, either that friend, if she wasn't following you already, that's the thing. If they're following you already, maybe the girl you broke up with them will unfollow you, but that's only because she knows she has Johnny Two Times right next to her who's pulling that information right out your back door. But if she doesn't have a little henchman who follows you, she's going to send one of them your way. Probably somebody that you have the best relationship to, where you would actually feel bad, like, I'm not going to deny her. But that's what they're doing. They're sending one of their henchmen into your account to extract information. Like on the battlefields, like when you see somebody with the binoculars trying to see what's going on and then go back to base and report it, that's who they are. That's who they are. The scouts, if you will. The battle scouts. Yes. Yes. Also here, if you randomly stumbled across this podcast and decided it's worth listening to a guy that you have absolutely no idea who he is, then I will let you know that typically I do something called the Scam of the Week, where every single week I reveal a scam that either people don't really talk about or a scam that I use. We've talked about plenty in the past. Like I've talked about scams, how to get into like crazy places in Vegas, and these are all scams I can show pictures of, proof, and receipts. I got receipts, as they say. I got so many receipts. The IRS is never auditing me because I got that many receipts when it comes to the scams that I'm pulling. I got receipts up and down the board. Which one did I wrote one down. What I'm about to talk about right now, this is not a scam in that this is not a scam that I'm willing to call my scam of the week, but this is a scam that people they kind of pull all the time. This is the rainy wedding scam. And if you know what, I wish I had the music. I got scam of the week music, but just name me. All right, so hey, no problem. So I've always said, so look, so we got a live chat, and I'm happy that I'm live here too. But the problem is, I said this last week, I'm a poor multitasker, okay? I'm Guy 101. I can't do two things at once. So the last thing I want to do is be one of those TikTokers who's, hey, yeah, oh no, yeah, Cincinnati's cool in March, yeah. Because I know that's not exciting at all. So anyway, on the podcast, I talk about the scam of the week where I reveal scams. So a scam that I call people out for, it's the wedding on a rainy day scam. The wedding on a rainy day scam. And I don't know how old you are, but at some point, either you've been to weddings or you're going to be going to them in the relatively near future, because I don't think many 14-year-olds are watching this right now. So when you go to a wedding, if it happens to be raining, and somebody who's not like the bride or groom, somebody who's not in the immediate family who you're going to really offend like that, someone says, no, it's raining, that's good luck. It's good luck if it rains. Well, it's good luck if it's sunny. Like, it's understood. Like, oh my God, it's a beautiful day, and that's foreshadowing a beautiful marriage. When it rains, they go, oh, no, that's good luck when it rains. No, it's not. No, it's not ideal for anybody. And let me tell you what happened. And I have zero proof of this, but I got a hunch, okay? I got a sniff. And that is that a person in a high place of power many, many generations ago, I'm talking about like a king, somebody in a royal family, he woke up on his wedding day and he looked out that window and it was pure gray, like Iron Island's gray, okay? Game of Thrones, 𝐼𝐮𝐥𝐿, rain, and gray. And this guy was like, I'm doomed. And as the king, or whoever, whatever his position was, he made everybody spread the rumor that getting married on a rainy day was good luck. He goes, no, you tell everyone that getting married on a day like this is actually the best thing that could happen to anybody. And it's not. It's not, unfortunately. Now, look, I'm not here to like poo-poo on your, who knows? Maybe sun is bad luck, rain's bad. Maybe none of them. That's probably what it is. It's like roulette, Every wedding is you spin that wheel and it's either black or red, and then even a few, 00 green, 00, a lot of losses in there. But regardless, I don't think it has to do with the sun or rain. So the next time somebody tells you that a wedding is good luck when it rains, as they're coming in with an umbrella that, dripped on some of the back of their suit, and now when you go return the tux that you had to rent, they go, oh, well, we can't give you the deposit back because it rained. Yeah, tell me what kind of good luck that is. So, I remember, if you're a groomsman ever, and you're not married or not in a position where you're going to be married anytime soon, you're going to get those questions. You just are. Possibly even if you're not. Anytime you go to a wedding and you're in that range, you're getting the question, well, what about you? What about you? I have two possible defenses for that. Number one, you do what I did when my friend's mom, and I didn't feel bad doing this because I know she's such a cool lady. She was like, well, Andy, when are you thinking about? I was like, well, I actually was going to ask the girl I was with, but she kind of left me for somebody else. And then you're going to see them get all like, they're going to feel so bad for asking. But then you cut it off and say, well, look, now you know how I felt when you asked me the question, but that's not true, by the way. So that's option number one. You say the person you were going to ask just left you with for another guy, and then watch that person get choked up, and then in the midst of choking, just relieve them and say, hey, look, that's not true, but now you know how I feel. And then number two, and I said this at my brother's wedding, I said, for anybody who's about to ask me when I'm going to get married, if you knew somebody was unemployed, is the first thing you would say to them like, hey, Dan, how's the job search going? Or, how's work, Dan? All right, use a little discretion, okay? Don't ask an unemployed guy how the job's going, or even the job search for that matter. So yeah, there's some wedding stuff. One topic that I wanted to talk about, and I need to research more on this probably, but it's this McDonald's McFlurry machine thing going on. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I even never knew this, and it's so crazy how it happened in this order. I'd say 7 months ago, a girl I was hanging out with informed me that there's a website out there. This is a real website called McBroken.com that tells you where McFlurry machines are not working. And I'm talking about every single McDonald's. It has every single McDonald's. You can go to it right now. And if I did this right, I'm going to try to... This might end the whole stream, by the way. Me trying to pull up one graphic. So let's see if this one graphic works, or we're all going down. You ready? Dink. All right. So hopefully you're seeing that right now. But look, in the New York, you see all those red dots? Those red dots indicate all the McDonald's that I guess don't have McFlurry machines working. Now, for what it's worth, that's a lot of working McFlurry machines. I see mostly green on this, which is probably because of the next part of this story. So I was informed about this website, and then I just was like, it's crazy. Who's taking the time to upkeep this website, and who is that interested in these McDonald's McFlurry machines? It makes absolutely no sense to me. And then it turns out a story came out like this past week that, like, I don't want to say the FBI. I should probably be more well versed on this. But like McDonald's is legitimately being investigated for why these machines aren't working at so many McDonald's. Apparently, I guess whoever makes it has to do with the person who makes the machine or the company who makes the machine intentionally making a machine that needs service, which, you know, there's a whole thing to it. But how wild is that? You know, when people ask you, like, oh, well, why don't you trust this? Why don't you trust this? Well, how could you not? Well, because when you have McDonald's, rigging like the Monopoly lottery, rigging machines, it's hard to have trust in pretty much anything. Okay, because you're getting scammed with weddings, rainy days, bad luck. McDonald's won't even giving you milkshakes. So you wonder why people are distrustful of many things. That's why, because you can't go left, you can't go right without getting screwed or lied to or deceived. How the hell did we go into that? What was I jotted down over here. Oh, I got my, okay, now it's time for my scam of the week. So this is where I want you in your head to play whatever scam music that would play when somebody was talking about something silly. Think about some sneaky Ocean's 11 type music. So this scam is called Riding the Line. So let's call it the Riding the Line scam. And I would imagine you have to be in a place that's relatively popular, that has a lot of places open, because it would require a line. So this all stemmed from a couple years back when I was going out with a friend. We were out on Bowery in New York City, and we passed this bar, and we're like, wow, look at that line of people. We saw like a lot of you know cute girls on the line. If you were a girl, there were, I'm sure, cute dudes on the line, but it looked like a place that you wanted to be. And I remember it was so early. It was like 9 o'clock. I'm like, there's already a line for this place. And then we went out a few weeks later, and we're like, yo, let's go by that place. And sure enough, there's a line again. And the last 6 girls on the line were so attractive. So my buddy goes to me, yo, you want to ride the line? I was like, what? Like I knew it. And he goes, just ride the line, get behind them. Yeah, so even though we wanted to go, we didn't want to wait on the line, but we got on the line just to talk to how many hot girls were in front of us. So basically, the scam is you just find a place that a lot of people want to get into, and it's not like one of those nightclubs where you see all the hot girls going on the left side and then every donkey on the right side. There has to be like that one established line, and you just ride it. Okay, there's no buying drinks. You don't have to buy somebody a drink. There's no, you're just 2 people waiting on the line. And she can't act like she's better than you just yet, all right? Because she's a girl standing in a line just like you. And it's also not, you have a perfect time. And what kind of better opening line is when you pull up behind them and you just give that classic, like, yeah, you've been waiting long? Yo, it's baked into the scam. The opening line is baked into the scam. The classic, how long you been waiting here? And now you guys are in this together. Like, 15 minutes? Jesus Christ, I mean, what's going on? And now you guys are in this battle together. You guys have a common ground. So yeah, that's the Ride the Line scam. This Now, I don't know how effective it would be to actually go out one night. You know, in Half-Baked, when Thurgood, Dave Chappelle, has no money, he literally has no money, and he goes on a date with that girl, and he's got to make like $5 last the day, so he asked her to walk all the way across town and bypasses going to a restaurant and just gets the girl a hot dog. Well, I couldn't think of a better way for a young guy to just try to meet somebody without actually spending any money. And even if you're underage, just get in the line. It's not like you're going in, And then as 20 minutes go by, but you know what? I'm just going to go to the other place. And now you got that 23-year-old's number. You're a 20-year-old guy without an ID. And is this illegal, what I'm suggesting? I hope not. No, that's not illegal. That's not illegal. It's clever. I have a friend once. Oh, God. I don't want to reveal the scam. But I'll just say what he said because, I already gave a scam and a half on this episode. I'm not putting 3 scams out there. But he told me when I did something, I'm like, yo, dude, that's pretty scummy what I did. He goes, hey, it wasn't scummy. It was resourceful. And he said it in such a way, he made me feel good about myself. He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah. Yeah, we all need friends like that, by the way. Those ones who just, green light your worst, like, impulses and vices. I needed him to say, like, yeah, dude, you might want to rethink that. He goes, oh, no, it wasn't scummy. It was resourceful. We all need those friends / don't. But, I think just like with the podcast, what do you think? Should we do some more? All right, you know what I'm going to do? This is where I read some of these things. I just watched a YouTube video on the McDonald's ice cream machine. I got some info if you want. It's a genuine scam from within the company. 25% of their annual revenue comes from the maintenance and services for 25% of McDonald's revenue? That's not talking about like Carvel ice cream. That's McDonald's. Wow. And you know what they're going to have to do? You know what they're going to have to do when it gets caught that they committed these unbelievably, like, ludicrous activities that are borderline, like, there should be thousands of people jailed. But you know what's going to happen? They're going to pay a minuscule fine. Nobody's going to jail. Nobody's going to do anything. But if you shave $35 off your taxes, IRS is coming directly for you. But I got receipts. Remember that, IRS. I got receipts for my scams. So, you know what? Since this is my first YouTube, I'm going to keep going. I don't even know how long this is, but I'm going. So, I don't know if you guys are aware, and I say you guys, who the hell knows listening, but the website Fiverr, maybe you guys know it, you probably know it. But when somebody doesn't, because I'd say 1 out of every 3 people doesn't know. 2 out of 3 might know it, but 1 out of 3 people do not know. So Fiverr is a website where you can go to like outsource work. You can get it done for cheap outside the country. Like it's a pretty absurd website. Like for example, you can search anything. This video right here. I want to promote a YouTube video. Someone goes, I'll get you 50,000 views for $8. And it goes to one of those factory farms. What do you call those things? Like, it's one of those centers in India where it's going through a machine and it's getting whatever that is, you're getting these versions, these fake outsourced versions of the jobs you're looking for. But that's no problem, man. I'm happy to do it because you know what's surprising to me? If I was recording this podcast not live, I would actually, I might stop and then go back or something like that. But, there's something about that pressure of when you're live. There is no messing around. But this website Fiverr, so it has like these weird outsourced jobs where people try to claim that they're doing these jobs that you may be interested in hiring somebody for. But you can see in the job listing, a lot of stuff is misspelled. They're in a random country. They're in Bangladesh. Everybody's in Bangladesh. But that's not why the website's funny. The website is funny because you can search some of the most asinine things that people will do for you for $5. And it's not a fake thing where it's not going to happen. Like you PayPal the $5, $6, and then they actually do it for you. Because I tested one of them out. And if you go on there, there's like somebody who claims they will cast a spell on somebody for you for $8. So there's a theoretical witch doctor in a country far away who's going to cast a spell on somebody for you. And when you place one of these orders, they kind of require some information, and then you give it off to them. What information am I giving them to carry this? Oh, well, look. There's this girl who I just graduated with, and man, she is killer. Do you think you can just sprinkle some stuff into a witch's brew, put a one-eyed walrus in there, a tooth, and maybe make something happen for me? But that's on there. That's on there. The one that I ordered, because that one, something like that creeped me out. There was a guy, I forget what country, he said, I will dig up, and it's great, these listings say that. He goes, I will dig up any message for you out of the ground and then read it. Yeah, that's what this person does. If you have a message to send somebody, like, Cameo, where David Boreanaz from Bones will be like, this is David Boreanaz, and hey, Frank, just wanted to say happy birthday. Sorry Dad couldn't make it to the Yankees game, but hey, season Bones on Blu-ray comes out next week. All right, take it easy, champ, as you pay David Boreanaz $78. But this guy, this random guy for $5 in the middle of Lord knows where, puts a message in the dirt. And he pretends, he literally films a skit where he's like this jungle man, a man of the jungle, who stumbles, like is digging for some sort of, I don't know, something, and he stumbles upon this message, and then like he opens a box, he opens a chest, like he kind of was digging for gold or something, or digging for some sort of fortune, or One-Eyed Willie's chest, and he takes out the message and reads it. So if you wanted to deliver a happy birthday message, happy birthday to Frank, if you can't afford David Boreanaz, then this guy will dig up a message out of the ground and deliver a happy birthday. So I had this guy dig up a message and encourage my friend to bet the Giants money line at plus 365. So this guy digs up a message and he does this whole thing where he goes, oh, I got this message, and then he holds it to the camera and goes, hey, Giants money line plus 365 in a thick accent, and it's one of the funniest things ever. This is a real thing. No, it's so you think it's a random guy in that you have no clue who this person is. It's not like going on Cameo. Like, it is, you can see the job he's done for somebody else. Like when you go to Fiverr and you pick one of these jobs, if they've done it before, you can actually see the job. So you can actually envision what yours would look like. And this guy, he digs messages up out of the ground. I saw another guy, he's in the middle of the desert. You can't see anything for miles. And I don't know, he sings you a song in the middle of the desert. The jobs that you see on here, there's a girl who will pick her nose and then read a sign with her booger on it. Like, I'm talking about the most obscure, random, wacky things you've ever seen for $5. It's bizarre. It is bizarre. And when I tell people about it and they look at it, they go, this is bizarre. So if you ever, I just sounded like Seinfeld, this is bizarre. But if you ever have any time to kill, man, just go on Fiverr, and I don't even know what to type in. Just look for those odd jobs, because the weird thing, there are some legitimate-ish ones on there. But that's one of those rabbit holes. Like, you think there's, rabbit holes here on YouTube. You go to Fiverr, you're going to get some good ones. Just like that Giants money line, plus 365. The last thing that I'll say before I sign off here is I got a message from somebody, and they said, it was on Instagram. This guy goes, Andy, man, I gotta tell you, I love what you do. I love your comedy, but, and as Ned Stark once said, everything that comes before the word but is horse manure. But this guy goes, oh, I love what you're doing, but, like, oh, you only have like 6,000 followers, man. Like, how do you do it? Like, how do you pay for things? So the guy essentially said, oh, yeah, I like your stuff, and then took a dig at me, like, but you only have 6,000 followers. So I said, yeah, man, like, I have a job that I have to work, and then I do this to the side, because this is what I don't even want to say I do it to the side. I almost want to say I do my job to the side. Like, I do this because I love it, and I've been chasing performing, acting, and for a long time, over 10 years. And when I told him that, I was like, yeah, I have to work and then do that. He goes, wow, that sounds like a lot of work. Yeah. Yes, people. It is a lot of work. I think social media has given people a real false sense of, what it takes to get to where you want to go, because you see Charlie D'Amelio. It's like the people, who used to go to Hollywood and say, oh, well, Brad Pitt, he was, he worked outside of El Pollo Loco and he was spinning a sign like, come get your El Pollo Loco chicken, and now look at him. Yeah, what you don't read about are the 77,000 other Brad Pitts who are still spinning that sign outside the El Pollo Loco. So just know, kids, if you work hard like me, you can have 2 concurrent viewers on YouTube today. All right, guys, thank you for joining me here on this live. I really, if I was checking things, then you're not getting this level of flow. So you got to pick one or the other. But if you do watch this at any point, thank you for checking it out. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, if you are somebody who's watched my stuff, enjoyed my stuff, please consider joining the Patreon, throwing $5 to the cause. I'm always, usually equipment related things or hosting the pod. The money just goes to like stuff for here. All right. I'm not taking your money and going to the casino, even though I probably should be, because then I can quadruple it and then really make some upgrades. But regardless, if you wouldn't mind, head over there. If not, I understand. But I will be back with you next week, and I will see you guys soon. And here comes the awkward 5 seconds where I lean in and actually have to click the button to end the stream. But because I have some decent experience back in the day of kind of knowing that it was still going on, it will be relatively smooth like that. And now, of course, do you mean to end the stream? Yes.